Some thrillers are about who committed the crime, but the Drishyam series, it has always been about something more terrifying, living with the crime. For over a decade, Georgekutty has not been fighting the police, he has been fighting memory, fear, guilt, and paranoia, and the unbearable weight of protecting a family built on a lie. And that is exactly why Drishyam 3 works. Not because it reinvents the mystery thriller, but because beneath all the investigation, twists, and misdirection, this is still a deeply tragic family drama about a man slowly drowning under the consequences of one decision. And honestly, that emotional continuity is what makes this trilogy one of the most fascinating character studies in Indian commercial cinema. But at the same time, Drishyam 3 is also a film constantly wrestling with its own limitations. Brilliantly written, meticulously structured, yet emotionally staged in a way that sometimes feels stuck in old filmmaking grammar. Let's talk about it. Before we talk about part 3, let me set the record straight about something that the internet constantly gets wrong about this franchise. People love to box the Drishyam series into a mystery thriller category. And yes, on surface, it wears that coat. But peel back the layers, and what you find underneath is something more raw, far more human. Drishyam is at its beating heart a family drama. Think about it. In part 1, a family is pushed to the absolute edge of a cliff, cornered, desperate, terrified, and one man, armed with nothing but love and a mind sharpened of a lifetime of watching movies, builds an elaborate fortress of lies to protect them. In part 2, that same man walks into the storm knowing it's coming. He's read the script, he's already written the counter script, he's 10 steps ahead because he has had the luxury of time and anticipation. But part 3 pulls the rug from under his feet entirely. Georgekutty doesn't know what's coming, and that single shift in storytelling DNA is what makes this installment the most emotionally complex chapter of the trilogy. Now let's talk about the man himself, Georgekutty, played with absolute soul-deep commitment by the legendary Mohanlal. Here's what I want you to understand. Georgekutty is not a mastermind, and that is precisely what makes him extraordinary. He's not some genius sitting in a war room orchestrating moves like a grandmaster playing chess. Indian thrillers often romanticize intelligence like superhero power. He is a father, he is a husband, and it is that unconditional emotional connection to his family that becomes the raw, unfiltered fuel that drives his will, his courage, and his ability to think logically under the most catastrophic pressure imaginable. That is the genius of this character's construction. And in part 3, we see cracks, beautiful, heartbreaking cracks. The guilt of that one fateful event from the first film has burrowed itself deep into Georgekutty's bones. You can see it in his eyes. You can hear it in the way he references it, unprompted, multiple times throughout the film. This is a man haunted by what he did, even though he did it for love. The weight of that moral compromise sits on his shoulders like a stone he can never put down. And here's something that tells you everything about who Georgekutty is as a human being. He helps people who have worked against him, not out of strategy, not out of manipulation, but out of genuine goodness. In a world full of cinematic anti-heroes who are celebrated for their ruthlessness, Georgekutty is quietly, devastatingly decent. And that contrast between the darkness of what he is hiding and the lightness of who he actually is the emotional backbone of this entire trilogy. But part 3 also shows us a Georgekutty who is becoming careless. The man who once anticipated every threat is now absent-minded, failing to read the room, missing signals he would have caught in his sleep a decade ago. Is it the guilt? Is it the comfort of a life upgraded? Is it the arrogance that comes from having won twice? Perhaps all three. And this vulnerability makes him more relatable than ever before. The writing in Drishyam 3 is in many places razor sharp. The twists and turns are so excellently crafted that even when your brain is screaming at you that you are being deflected away from the real perpetrator, you still get blindsided when the reveal lands. That is the mark of a supremely confident writing. It doesn't just fool you, it fools you knowingly, and you enjoy every second of being deceived. Small details in the screenplay deserve special mention too. Georgekutty's upgraded car is not just product placement, it is visual storytelling. It is a symbol of how far this family has climbed from where they started. Couple that with his entry into film production, and you have a man who has used his shadow of his past to build something luminous. The irony is delicious. But the most fascinating storytelling choice in part 3 is the catharsis, or rather, the agonizing lack of it. That one incident from the first film continues to echo through every single character's life. They have moved forward, yes, they have grown, yes, but they have never been free. And the film has the courage to look at that truth directly in the face without flinching. Director Jeethu Joseph, let's give the man his flowers. Drishyam 3 is a clear step up from part 2. The flat, stagey scene construction that made certain portions of the second film feel oddly lifeless, that issue has been addressed head on. The pacing here is tighter, the energy more kinetic, plot threads run in parallel with surgical precision, and the editing deserves a standing ovation. Keeps you in a constant state of delicious tension. You're always guessing, always leaning forward, always one step behind the film. That is the job of the thriller, and it is done exceptionally well here. However, and I won't sugarcoat this, the character interactions still feel one note. The drama between characters lack the kind of subtle layer nuance that separates good cinema from great cinema. This is old school filmmaking, dependable, effective, but not transcendent. The elder daughter in particular is a glaring weak link. Her reactions throughout the film feel oddly disengaged, almost as if she is reading lines from a page rather than living in a moment. Her performance lacks the internal fire that the character desperately demands, and it pulls you out of some of the film's most emotionally critical scenes. The writing may be sharp, but the execution in these interpersonal moments still carries the echo of a stage play rather than lived in cinematic truth. So where does that leave us with Drishyam 3? Here's the truth. This is a film that rewards your loyalty to the franchise. It respects your intelligence, it surprises you when you think you cannot be surprised. It gives you a Georgekutty who is more human, more flawed, and more emotionally resonant than ever before. Is it perfect? No. The dramatic execution needed more depth, the supporting performances needed more fire, and the film's stage-like tendencies haven't been fully exorcised. But is it worth your time, your ticket, and your trust? Absolutely yes. Drishyam 3 is a proof that some stories don't end with the credits. Some stories, much like guilt, much like love, just keep going. From film Relic, Drishyam 3 gets a strong 3.5 out of 5. See it for Mohanlal, stay for the story, leave with the lot to think about. So what did you think about Drishyam 3? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep screenplay and movie analysis like this, subscribe to Film Relic. Until next time, stay curious, stay cinematic.